Not a whole lot going on over southwest Florida. It's a different story when we move over to the east and you see just this big plume of convection. This is all associated with subtropical storm Nicole. Still a very disorganized system. The center really going to be located right here in the midst of all of this convection. A little bit more organized, but still the mass of the convection, the thunderstorms, the cloud coverage still going to be out to the east. But with the latest track from the National Hurricane Center, this storm is expected to get its act together. It's forecast to eventually become a Category 1 storm Wednesday evening before making landfall on the Florida East Coast closer to the West Palm Beach area, crossing over the state and then eventually lifting off to the north. Still, southwest Florida going to be in that cone of concern, and depending on the track, remember, this is not an impact graphic. The center of the storm can waver anywhere within the cone. If it takes more of a northerly track, that would be good news for us. Less impacts, more of a southerly track. That means we could see more impacts. This goes through the scenarios that the whole weather team has been talking about for a day or two. Now, the scenarios do depend on two different steering currents. One of them going to be this cold front moving through. That's going to pull the storm up to the northeast and out to the Atlantic. The other steering current going to be this Bermuda high. If this builds in enough, it could push the track a little bit further to the south, and that would bump up our impacts. So here's a look at the American model, the GFS, the National Hurricane Center, really following it when it comes to the track and also a little bit when it comes to the intensity. I want to go through the timeline here with you. It looks like late Wednesday into overnight Thursday, you could see that landfall going to be for the East Coast. It races across our state and then moves a little bit to the north, closer to the Tampa Bay area. By about 1 o'clock on Thursday, it's out to the Gulf of Mexico. It starts to take that turn to the Big Bend, and here it comes when that front picks it up, moves it up to the northeast, and then out to the Atlantic, leaving behind gradually clearing conditions and really beautiful conditions for your weekend. We're going to be cool and dry. I know a lot of us are very wary, especially since we are still in the midst of recovery efforts since Hurricane Ian. So here's what you need to know. We currently have 3 counties in southwest Florida. It's DeSoto, Glades, and Hendry County that are highlighted in the yellow. That's a tropical storm watch. That means they're expecting those conditions within the next 48 hours. When it comes to our impacts, we are at a moderate risk for wind, looking at wind speeds up to 60 miles per hour, anywhere between 1 to 4 inches of rain. This will not be a storm surge event for us. It will be for the East Coast, but we don't have to worry about this, and we are at a low risk when it comes to tornadoes. So what to do? Remember, we are looking at tropical storm force winds and heavy rain. So if you have any debris around your house, or maybe you have a tarp on your roof, get everything together. That would be no later than tomorrow evening. And keep tuning into Fox 4. At least do it once a day, so that way you are weather aware. Tonight, as I mentioned, locally we have great weather. We are dry right now on our live radar. As we head into tomorrow's morning commute, you can see a mix of sun and clouds. After 2 o'clock, we could start to see cloud coverage and spotty showers build in, as we have plenty of tropical moisture that will build in. That would be late Tuesday and continuing into Wednesday as those outer bands slowly approach us here in southwest Florida. Overnight lows going to dip into the low 70s. Tomorrow's highs going to max out in the upper 80s. The timeline that we were just talking about also reflected in your 7-day forecast, with conditions deteriorating on Wednesday, watching the tropics especially on Thursday, and gradually clearing skies by Friday. And there's that gorgeous forecast for the weekend that we were talking about.